Welcome, brothers and sisters, to Men Metal Mayhem, the podcast where the brothers men take a deep dive into the discographies of our favorite metal bands. I'm your host, Brother Paul, joined as ever by my two brothers and co-hosts, Brother John
Merry Yuletide to you, my dear brothers.
and Brother Dave.
Grace and peace to you from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ.
Season 3, Jesus Freaks. We are diving into the world of Christian metal, and today we are discussing Extol's 2003 album, Synergy. Join us, 26 miles from Marathon. This album was released August 12th, 2003. Brother John, hit us with the top Christian songs of that time. Tell us what you were up to and give us your album pick.
With pleasure, my dear bro. And I should say, my greeting will make no sense, or well, it'll make sense, but it'll be completely inappropriate for anyone listening because although we are recording on December 21st, this will drop, I don't know when, like 2 months from now or
Sometime in
something.
February.
Yeah. So, to everyone in the future, I hope that your Yuletide was great and whatever else you may celebrate around this time of the year. But in 2003, I looking at the hits, I mean, I was familiar with a couple of these bands, but I've never heard a single one of these songs, I don't think. According to Wow Hits 2003, which as we know is the annual CD that was released with the top Christian hits on it. Some of the big ones from that year included It Is You by the Newsboys, our good friends. I Need You by Jars of Clay. Ocean Floor by Audio Adrenaline, and a whole bunch of other stuff by bands that I didn't even recognize the names of. And so I Googled a little bit more to kind of find out, okay, what were the top Christian rock songs or albums? Like who was putting out stuff in 2003 in the Christian rock scene? And some of the bigger songs that weren't necessarily on Wow Hits 2003 were the song Meant to Live by Switchfoot,
Mm.
Bounce and Phenomenon by Thousand Foot Crutch, Run by Cutlass, and Take My Life by Jeremy Camp. Those apparently dominated the charts, but according to like christianrock.net, but I've never heard any of those either. I'm vaguely familiar with those bands, but like honestly, I don't think I ever listened to any of them. The only one kind of tucked in there, or there was two. So Sleepwalking kind of showed up not as like a top hit, but one of the hits of that year. And I do remember I listened to Blindside quite a bit back in the day. And then another song, I Am Understood by Reliant K, who I was a little familiar with. And Paul, I think you listened to a good amount of Reliant K, didn't you?
Actually, I was familiar with them. My wife loves them,
Oh,
and
yeah.
sister Rebecca loved Reliant K. I think I saw them play live once at Life Fest. I enjoyed them. They weren't my number one.
Yeah. I remember liking them at Life Fest. I don't really even remember them like what they sounded like. I think it was just kind of pop punk,
They
right?
were pop punk.
Yeah, and I do have, maybe I can dig this out of the old archives, but there's a photo of me with one or two of the guys from Reliant K that I have somewhere on my computer from Life Fest, which probably would have been like 2001, I want to say, maybe.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. But yeah, what was I doing in 2003? Well, I was just about to go into my junior year of college. So this summer of '03 would have been the third time I went to Cornerstone Music Festival, speaking of Christian music fests. And I'm unsure if Extol played there, but it seems like they may have because a lot of the solid state bands would hit up Cornerstone, and it was like the biggest Christian music festival, I believe, for a long time. And actually, I looked into it. Apparently, they stopped putting that festival on in 2012 due to declining attendance and also declining funding available from the various Christian labels that had helped to put it on. So it hasn't even been a fest in the last 13 years. So that's sad. I think I went 5 or 6 years, and that was always a lot of fun. But looking at who I did see in 2003, saw Zayo, Me Without You, Under Oath, Norma Jean, Losing All Hope, and of course, our friends in Joust. Shout out Isaiah Coleman et al.
Nice.
Loved those guys. And yeah, let's see. What else did you want me to talk about? Oh, album pick for 2003?
Yes, please.
Well, we didn't really
It's
do
like an
this.
assignment. What do you want me to say?
Yeah.
What should I say next? So 2003 was a great year for albums. There was like a wealth of choices, but I saw that The Silent Circus by Between the Buried and Me came out that year. So I wanted to call that one out because listening to Extol, with the sort of progressive technical metal elements kind of was a little reminiscent to me of Between the Buried and Me. And so maybe a portend of things to come, but I love Between the Buried and Me, genre-wise, similar to what we're going to talk about today. I was happy to see that came out. I popped that one on. I was like, oh man, The Silent Circus is good. I mean, it's like really good. But I recall way back in the day when I first heard it, I don't think I'd really listened to too much really technical or progressive metal at the time. And they're kind of all over the place with their time signatures and, some parts kind of hard to find the groove. So it was a little inaccessible at first, but after a few listens, I was like, yeah, these guys are onto something. So I came to really like BT Bam and even saw them in Madison probably like 2007 or 2008 thereabouts, around the time they're probably touring after Colors came out, and that was an awesome show. So that was my pick. Brother Dave, 2003. Tell us
Didn't
more.
you just see BT Bam with Protest the Hero? Or
That was
No,
me.
that was
I
just Brother Paul?
I
Oh, I
saw
thought you
them.
guys met up for it.
No, we did that for Swallow the Sun and Harakiri for the Sky and Ghost Bath. But I went with my concert buddy Matt, and we saw Protest the Hero and BT Bam do their Coma Eclectic and Alaska. It was the Coma Alaska tour, and it was really, really good.
Como, Alaska.
I hate
Paul
you.
just stares.
I hate you.
2003 was beginning of my sophomore year at Calvin College, and I was deep in the throes of depression. And what better way to celebrate that than with the Ultimate Birds and Sadness album? 2003 saw the release of Viva Emptiness by Katatonia. And it's dark, it's atmospheric, it's got some alt rock and a lot of prog sensibilities mixed in there. And this album is just absolute perfection. They're one of those bands that started as a kind of run-of-the-mill death metal band, and then they took just a hard left turn into a completely different genre, and then they just became a titan of that genre. And Viva Emptiness is kind of the third album in that style where they really brought it all together. And I think what makes this one stand out more than the two that came before it is they work in the prog influences a lot. There's a lot of fun compositional decisions in here, a lot of sneaky time signature stuff going on, but it's all done so subtly that you could miss it all and just vibe with the album. And the album is still great, even if you're not listening to all the complexity that's hidden in it. It's just an absolute banger, one of my absolute favorite albums. And you should check it out. You owe it to yourself.
And I have, and in fact, recently, and you know what? I think I did vibe to it without catching all the complexities.
Yeah,
but I love that one too. It's great. And not too long ago put that on. And I was like, man, it still slaps.
Yeah. Around this time, Brother Dave and we used to ask each other, like, what's your top 5 metal albums? And that one was always in the top 5. It's such a good album. recently, within the past couple of years, I've been more into Last Fair Deal Gone Down, which is the one before. But God, Viva Emptiness it's a perfect album. So
What's
great,
the one that
great
came out
choice.
after Viva Emptiness?
Is that oh, it's not Night is the New Day, is it? It's the
It's the
one
one with
Great
my
Cold
twin.
Distance.
Yeah, because
Great
those are
Cold
the two.
Distance.
I don't think I've really heard anything of Katatonia other than those two. So maybe I need to do myself a favor and dig into the rest of their catalog a little bit.
Well, I think at some point in the future we're gonna do a Birds and Sadness season and we'll have to do Catatonia. Oh. Okay, for me, in the summer of 2003, I was actually seeing Extol live because I went to Cornerstone Music Festival. That was the one year I went, and they were playing. And actually, one of the stages, they had a whole afternoon of European metal bands. So Extol played, Frühstück played, and there was one or two others who I can't remember. I don't recall the show specifically, but I know I went and I checked it out. I do remember that I saw Living Sacrifice there. They played on the main stage. We covered them last episode. And I also saw Demon Hunter, who, spoiler alert, we're going to talk about them in 2 episodes. So it was really cool going to Cornerstone. I stayed, me and sister Rebecca went down and we stayed with you and your friends, brother John. And that was the year they found a dead body in the lake.
Oh, yeah,
I think
somebody
we talked
drowned.
about it on a previous episode, but that was,
Yeah, that's rough.
yeah. So don't go drinking and then night swimming because that's the result. But overall, it was good. Saw a lot of cool bands.
On a
Um,
positive note, though, Feast Eternal was on fire that year, and it was great. So, in other words, we had a lot of good food, and we just were feasting at Cornerstone. Feast
yeah,
Eternal.
yeah, that was great. Also, that was one of the last shows that Dallas Taylor played for Under Oath, and I remember seeing them live, and he's just like broken, and it was a very raw experience. And then like 2 weeks later, he was kicked out of the band. So let us move to my album pick. And for this, I am going to pick the band Celldweller and their self-titled debut, Celldweller. Now, Brother John, you had introduced me to the Christian industrial band Circle of Dust. And they disbanded in the late 90s. So when their frontman, Clayton Scott, came back with Celldweller, I had to check it out and I was absolutely hooked. It is hard-hitting electro-industrial. It's a little hard to overstate just how massive this album was for me in early high school because I think I was going into my sophomore year and this one got a lot of play. So let us move to the year in metal. And one of the reasons I wanted to do Extol this season is because they were kind of billed as being the Christian equivalent to like true technical metal bands. And they were also European and outside of Blindside, who are Swedish, I don't really recall listening to any foreign Christian metal bands growing up. It was all American and like oh they were
Because you weren't listening to Horde back in those days.
correct. Was not listening to them. And Christian metal it often seemed to be it was hardcore or metalcore. And I mean then there was like you knew bands like Striper, which was kind of like a punchline.
Savior
So
Machine, though.
yes, that is true. So a couple of secular contemporaries I picked out. Uh, Good call with BT Bam. I should have looked into that one a little more because that
Mm-hmm.
I do hear the similarities. But I chose Edge of Sanity with their album Crimson 2. And this is Dan Swano's progressive death metal band. And they are like a less well-known Opeth. and they're really, really good. I love Dance Wano's stuff. And also, Opeth came out with Damnation that year. So, musically, Damnation is a very much more subdued album, and it's kind of a departure even from Opeth's sound up to that point. But Extol actually supported Opeth in 2003 on their tours both in Europe and America. So, similar kind of progressive wheelhouse to a certain extent. Let us move on to the personnel. And playing on this album, we have Peter Espoval, vocals and acoustic guitar, his older brother, Christer Espoval, on guitars, their cousin, David Husvik, drums and backing vocals, Ola Barud, guitars and clean vocals, and John Robert Mjalland on bass. Released domestically via Solid State Records and internationally by Century Media, it was produced by Extol and Borga Finstad, who had worked with bands like Mayhem, Borknagar, and just a fair amount of kind of lesser known bands. I do want to mention the album artwork, which is really what piqued my interest about this album. In addition to it being kind of billed as, well, this is like true metal for Christians. It's a monk in some kind of a contest with death. It looks kind of like a wood carving almost. And they're both sitting on a seesaw while other monks and death figures look on. I think it's a really striking cover. And it was painted by Hugh Syme, a prolific artist who did the cover art for Nevermore's This Godless Endeavor.
So switch teams there.
Yeah. Yes, he did. This album is 11 tracks, just under 43 minutes, and it kicks off with track number 1, Grace for Succession. Brother Dave, I am curious your thoughts on this one.
I think that this is a bold start to this album, but probably a smart way to start it too. It's mathy thrash right out of the gate.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like 4 or 5 riffs or like variations on riffs, one after another. And it tells you this is what you're getting with this band. I feel like if the beginning of this song doesn't do it for you, you maybe can just put this one down right away. There's a lot of interesting stuff here. It's a dense song. When the thrash vocals come in around 41 seconds, it's not my favorite. But when the clean vocals come in around a minute 20, I can get into this. And they're doing a lot of kind of mathy noodling throughout. And at the end, they're kind of playing around with syncopation and like where even the main beat is. I feel like at the 240 mark towards the end of the song, you can bob your head to it, but I don't even know like where the 1 is. Find the downbeat. Find the downbeat. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on here. Does it come together as a great song? Maybe not, but my interest is piqued. Brother John?
Yeah. Well, you said a lot of the same stuff that I had in my notes, but you said it more eloquently. So I'm not going to rehash other than to say my notes say doing lots of interesting things on the guitars. And you said interesting a few times. But yeah, it's a technical little number. I do want to open up our segment, Sick Riffs and Tasty Licks.
I can also play some pretty hot licks, too.
Because at 27 seconds, they give us a really awesome guitar lick for about 1 to 2 seconds. like, man, that was so cool. But they basically, it's so short. It's like a tease, super tasty, but way too short. And then they never come back to it to give us like a full like solo with that little riff. It's just like or something like that.
Yeah,
And
that riff is pretty
yeah,
rad.
that part was sweet. I was like, oh man, this is going to be extra awesome. And I still did like the song quite a bit, but it could have been even like twice as awesome if they would have given us a little extended zazzy solo on that riff. I echo your comments about the vocals. Not a big fan of those screamy, shouty vocals, but I did like the clean vocals. And I feel like it's in my notes maybe later on. Over the course of this album, I swear they have like 5 different vocal styles that they drop in. And I hadn't looked it up, but Paul, when you kind of ran through the person, I was like, okay, there's 3 different people at least doing vocal duties at various parts. So that makes a little more sense. Because if
It's
it
like
was
a
all just
full
one
band
guy,
to
I'd be
compete
like,
with
wow,
Luke
this guy
Easter.
is this, yeah, he's really taking a page out of Tourniquet's book. But
Don't do the voice.
yeah, so I feel like the vocals are kind of a mixed bag. I did really like there's a part at about 2:25 they're doing like sort of drawn out clean vocals and a halftime rhythm, but then they slap some blast beats in there, which I thought sounded pretty cool. So overall, cool guitar work, fun, fast flow to the song. I like it. We're off to a good start here.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement because I wrote they're doing interesting stuff on this one. It's progressive and threat.
We're all like, it's interesting. Don't know how to explain it, but it's interesting.
But yeah, so it's good, it's interesting, progressive thrash, and then the vocals start and it just kills me. Even the cleans on the chorus don't land. There's a good instrumental break before the bridge and outro. It's simple but effective. And then at 3:30, they layer like it's a harmonized riff or lead on top, and I think that's kind of what takes us out. And I like it. So musically, it's interesting. It's not entirely my wheelhouse. Like I enjoy some of the stuff that BT Bam does, but it has taken me a long time to get into them. So I'm not huge into progressive, but it's interesting. I can vibe with some of this, but the vocals just aren't working. But hey, I also noted that they do a lot of different vocal styles as the album goes on. So hopefully one of them catches for me. But that brings us to track number 2, Paradigms. And here we get some guest female vocals, courtesy of a lady named Maria Solheim. But I don't think those land either. There's like a weird flatness to them. And outside of that, this song is serviceable musically. It's okay. Brother John.
Yeah, most of the stuff that I noted on this kind of centers around the drumming. Like at the very beginning, they have sort of a funky, groovy guitar riff, and there's a really syncopated breakbeat drumming pattern. It's like 16th notes on the ride cymbal and some syncopation on the snare and stuff. So I thought that sounded pretty cool. And then at 44 seconds, they had this really cool snare roll with an interesting pattern to transition from whatever they were doing into like sort of a faster punk thrash part. And I don't recall, there's some clean singing, like an intro bridge to get to the verse at that part. So I thought, like in particular, that drum snare roll fill, I thought sounded really cool. I was like, wow, that's awesome. But then, yeah, they get those shouty vocals again on this one. I didn't really like that. But throughout, the instrumentation, very technical, pretty interesting still. And this one, in my notes, I say a little reminiscent of something like Between the Buried and Me, though I put BT Bam on, and they had kind of a more robust layered sound, I thought. But still, it's in the same wheelhouse. So, these guys definitely could go, I think, toe to toe for them with the guitars and the drums. And maybe they just need a little more production to fill out the sound on the album a bit. I didn't think it sounded flat or anything like that. Like, it sounded fine, but then just putting something else on, it's like, ooh, this sounds like even more robust. Um, so another interesting song, marred a little bit by vocals I didn't love, but still, I'm liking what I hear for the most part.
Yeah, I was much in the same camp. This is the first one that had me making BT Bam correlations with the clean vocals that are at like 48 seconds. And also in 7/4 time, which they use 7/4 time all over the place on this album, and it almost always works. I really like that time signature. It's one of those ones that's a little off, but still has a lot of flow to it. They have really tight playing on this one between the chugs and on the guitars and the drumming, especially at 102. This main riff that they've got going on, I couldn't wrap my head around what exactly was going on, but I think they're adding just an extra 16th note or something in the chug at the beginning of the riff. It's a super weird spot to add an extra, like, fraction of a beat, and it gives it a very strange energy that had me interested enough that I kind of was ignoring the lackluster vocals. So there's a lot of rhythmic stuff in this song, like Brother John was saying. Even later at 2:24, they're just in a straight 8/8 section, but it's syncopated in such a way that I was like, this is very cool. And it feels off, but it all comes together. There's a lot going on in this song. I think this one straight up slaps.
I agree with that.
Yeah. Before we move on, I do just want to share a little gem I found on songmeanings.com from
I meant to mention this
I'm
too.
glad because I forgot to look at that, so I'm glad you guys did not drop the ball.
Is it from our friend, probably Ted Kirkpatrick in disguise?
It absolutely is, because 21 years ago, Skeezix himself, bloated with pestilence, wrote the following. Who cares what this song means? It's called Paradigms. You can't get a cooler name than Paradigms. Hard-hitting stuff, Ted. So, go listen to our episode on Tourniquet, please. Moving on to track number 3, Psychopath. Brother John.
All right, well, it's another set of technical guitar riffing and drumming bits that they're laying on us. I got to call out at 26 seconds, they have the thing where they do the hard break and the cymbal ting, which is just a fun,
cometh.
I loved
it. Fun flair to toss in to a song. Like, you don't want to overuse that, but in moderation, can be just perfect. At 28 seconds, the vocals start, and it's essentially like spoken word exposition, but then they have the more like evil voice joins, and it's also speaking, and it says salvation by grace, Christianity by performance, but it's like, well, you should just drop
It's
the
like
clip
black
of that
metal
part.
vocals.
Yes, I had
exactly.
black
That's what it
metal
is.
vocals.
With a distorted perception of submission, salvation by grace, Christianity by performance.
Yep, that's what they're doing. So just another vocal style tossed into the mix here. Throughout this song, most of the vocals are done as spoken word exposition. I don't love that, but the guitars and drums are doing some interesting stuff. So they're kind of salvaging and I would say, like, the vocal stuff, it's more of a minor complaint. It didn't like really grate on me the way that some of the tourniquet stuff did. But I was like, if the vocals would have been a little different, I would have, this maybe would be my new favorite band. But I thought what they're doing is pretty good stuff. Brother Dave?
Yeah, this one, yeah, is another really tightly played technical song. And those initial clean vocals uh over clean guitar, another 7/4 section, which I like. Um, this one, though, I'm not going to be as generous as you have been. The outside of those clean vocals, the vocal performance on this song is pretty lackluster and at times even kind of silly. Um, I think particularly when he's saying the line, "Your moral rearmament of others, developing shallow minds with a total lack of identity." He says it I gave it a very Skeletor feel there, but it's not far off. And so while I like the music that's going on here, the vocals take me out of it. But musically, there's some cool stuff. I think we should open up our section, Bring the Mosh. For the bit that happens at 152, where we've got a breakdown, and then he does this cool thing where he just adds 2 beats on the end of the measure in the breakdown. So it just was like, what's going on here? But it's cool. And then that gives way into a good simple solo, and then something we haven't really experienced thus far here, which is just big open chords in 4/4, which when used in contrast with the very technical stuff we've been hearing works really well. And then that opens into another solo that's really tastefully done. It's like you got some shred, you got some big soulful bends. I think it really works. And then we go back to math and shouts, and it's kind of like, eh. So this one, I think overall it still slaps, but there was a mix of good and bad decisions made on it, but the good outweighs the bad.
Yeah, so they have 3 vocalists, not including guest vocalists. They've done 5 different styles already in these 3 songs, and not one of their vocal styles is landing for me. That's they're trying everything, man, and nothing's working.
The shotgun approach, and Paul's like, blasting me in the face with everything bad.
But yeah, but I think the parts that Brother Dave you highlighted, those are all really good. So like there's that short solo, and then coming out of it, which I think maybe is that big open chord section, at 219, it is reminiscent to me of Opeth at that point. I think maybe something off Blackwater Park. It has a similar sound, and every time I hear it, I'm like, oh yeah, I can see why they would tour.
They do the same thing where they hang out just on that rhythm for longer than you think they should hang out.
Yeah.
I think the rhythm itself was a little lackluster to hang out on it that long, but it's a compositional choice that Opeth uses all the time.
Yes. I think I'm like, okay, I see the hints here. I see why people would, kind of lump them together and why they would tour together. And then that longer solo they do is really, really nice. I like that section a lot. And the guitar tone that they use, it reminds me a bit of how Pain of Salvation sounds, like the actual guitars.
Yeah, and also the way that they've both got kind of a thinner, not in a bad way, sound, but they don't do a lot of layering.
Yeah.
Right? Like you've got your guitar, you've maybe got it doubled. You maybe have 2 guitars, but you don't have a whole lot of noise or a lot of reverb. It's very contained and focused sound.
Yeah. And, I've talked about past albums and them sounding thin and it being really negative and wishing that it would, they could re-record them 20 years later and make it actually sound good. But there is a thinness, but it doesn't detract, So,
Mhm.
overall, there's a lot to like on this song. There's also stuff to not like. But I should note, so about those black metal vocals, their first album, it was a progressive black metal album. That's what they started as. So
Hmm.
going back to their roots a little bit. Brother John, or maybe it was Brother Dave, I forget at this point, actually referenced some of the lyrics. So we are actually going to open up our segment, Lyrical Tactics, Vocal Gymnastics.
Lyrical tactics, vocal gymnastics.
And I want to open it up to you boys first to see if you have anything to say about this one.
Yeah. Well, I think that I was the one who talked about the lyrics where that black metal voice says salvation by grace, Christianity by performance. And, this song is essentially about like Christian leaders, like pastors or whatever, who kind of are in it for their own personal gain as opposed to truly being in it for the people or like to be a leader. And, that's an issue that we definitely see. And I feel like had heard of plenty of examples of churches, including the one we went to when we were growing up, where that was kind of the issue. And I really like when bands talk about real world issues and not just like, oh, praise Jesus, this, that, whatever. So, and we got into that a little bit on Zayo. They had a lot of sort of like, here's real world struggles that we're dealing with and coming at it from our, faith perspective. And so it's nice to see where there's calling out hypocrisy in the church. And, this should not just be your own personal lust for power, but it should be love for others. But, there's people out there misleading their congregation, pursuing their own desires, deluding themselves and others to believing that it's all God's will. Those people are truly psychopaths, which is basically what this song is saying.
Yeah, I also appreciate when they take it further than just praise God lyrics, which unfortunately I feel like much of this album is kind of generic Christianity lyrics. Like, I've been saved through faith, I've washed with his blood or whatever. Um, it's a lot of stuff about, I'm redeemed. And there's only so many of those songs that you can listen to without just kind of tuning out the lyrics, I feel like. So this one is a breath of fresh air on this album, I think. And I I like the overall feel, and particularly that part that I mentioned earlier, that I thought the lyrics, the vocal performance was really cheesy with the moral rearmament of others. Uh, Developing shallow minds with a total lack of identity. I feel like that's a really good line. And so I'm sad that it was delivered so poorly. Because like it's all about kind of brainwashing people to use Christianity as a weapon. And I mean, we see so much of that today. And it was definitely a problem back then, but it's only gotten worse. So I mean, people should have listened to our boys in Extol. These lyrics, truly anointed.
uh yes. Yeah, I mean it's a very straightforward song, but I like reading these lyrics. It's all so prescient, and yeah, it's always been an issue. It will always be an issue, but I think maybe this is naive of me, but like there was a time when calling people out for being hypocrites did something and it mattered. Whereas now people they seemingly don't care about hypocritical action. Um, and the one that, there's a couple ones that give me, but you are the super Christian, empowered and installed by God, no sin, no mistakes. And there are certain leaders in the church who, if you are critical of them, the way they are rabidly defended and like, well, you can't be going after them because they're anointed by God. They at a certain level
They're
become they're
untouchable. Yeah.
untouchable. And it's so sad, and like we should be able to point out hypocrisy and
Hmm.
call out leaders that are just doing it to enrich themselves.
Right. It feels like the bar of untouchability is lowering so quickly that
Yeah,
it's really frustrating to watch.
it truly is. The one other line I wanted to call out is the feeling of guilt, your weapon of choice to control the hearts and thoughts of the ones you say you love. That is such a Christian thing, weaponizing guilt. And
Hmm.
it's used so effectively by people in power who often, ironically, or maybe not ironically, but have no guilt themselves
Oh yeah.
or feel no shame, but
Yeah.
they can weaponize it so well. So,
And I mean, song is called Psychopath, and that's
yeah,
a thing about psychopaths is they don't feel guilt.
yeah. So I really like the lyrics on this one. I will touch on Brother Dave's point that a lot of the rest of the lyrics on this album are I'm thinking of Nihilism 2002, which is the last song. And the song before this, Paradigms, it kind of talks about the emptiness and shallowness of the world, which is not necessarily a bad thing. To
Mhm.
point out the faults of how secular society operates. But I mean, as a Christian, growing up as a Christian, this one is the one that really hits hard, and I like it. So let us move on to track number 4, Blood Red Cover. And maybe I've just developed Brother John's Stockholm Syndrome, but the lyrics or the vocals aren't taking me out of it so much on this one.
I'd have to go back and listen because I feel like they maybe I literally and I think it's later, but I say I might be developing Stockholm Syndrome because the lyrics aren't offending me so much on a later song. But I think they kind of change up the
Yeah.
exact style. So
They've
they're kind of morphing in and out. Like it's not the hard, shouty, sort of strained shout, and it's more of a like a more appealing scream or something. So I think they are just like slightly changing it up. Because then I go back and listen to the first songs. I'm like, yeah, I still don't like this part.
yeah.
So, but I
Uh
literally had the same kind of thing in my notes, maybe one or two songs later.
maybe
Yes, the next song. I say, I think by this point I'm getting used to the vocals and they don't really bug me, so that's good. Increases the enjoyment when I've fully fallen into the
oh,
Stockholm Syndrome with the vocal style.
we
So yeah.
we're we're all just morphing into the same person at this point. I love our styles just overlap. But yeah, it's not taking me up. Maybe it's Stockholm Syndrome. Maybe they've introduced a sixth style that is actually
Sir,
working.
a
Secret
six style.
Yeah.
style.
Six style has
Um
just hit our eardrums.
yeah. And like this song, the guitars are crunchy. I think there's kind of dueling solos on this one. Drums are popping. This song, it's where it's finally started. It comes together. I think maybe this is a more cohesive song, and it's clicking for me. It's popping. Brother, brother John.
All right. So yeah, my notes are this one starts a bit slow in the intro, and then at 35 seconds it gets into some noodling guitar riffage and some rolling drums, which I like, but that only lasts for like 7 seconds, so I could have used more of that. And that's something, well, it's happened a couple times at least now where they do something cool, but they don't hang out on that cool thing quite long enough. It's like, give me more, give me more. But they're kind of bouncing around and doing all their mathy stuff. And at 147, there's a bridge part with some song vocals, and I thought those sounded nice. I like when they mix up the singing and, kind of introduce stuff that isn't the harsh, shouty screams that they were using on the first couple of songs. Uh, At 220, there's a cool musical interlude with some lead guitar stuff that I liked what they were doing there. And what the heck? Oh, at 307, I'm like trying to decipher my own notes. What do I mean with this note? But there's just a really sick sounding drum fill at the 307 mark, and it goes into a hard stop, and that part I thought was just baller. So a little less technical stuff overall. This one seemed a little more straightforward than some of the three prior songs, but it was still pretty good stuff. Brother Dave?
Yeah, I felt like this one was front loaded with the rhythmic complexity. I wrote, I've given up trying to count what's going on and relying on the vibes, like as my first note on this song. And then my second note is I lied. There's some 7/4 going on once it opens up a little bit. And so there's parts that I still don't really get what's going on, and it's too complex for me to want to sit down and figure it out. I probably could if I tried, but then when it gets into these parts that are still complex, but I can wrap my head around them, I like those more. And I also really like the kind of proggy clean vocals section we get around 2 minutes over some kind of offbeat, cleanish chugs. And then it follows up with a solo, Brother John mentioned. Very nice solo. This one, I felt like I didn't know where exactly the beat was at many points, but I was still bopping my head and it still followed the music. And that's not a bad place to be. It at least has enough of a flow that I'm following something. So this one is so close to a banger. I think it's a flawed banger.
But yeah, the thing that you just said about like bopping your head, that was like me throughout the whole album. I was always bopping my head, but I was like, where the fuck is the downbeat?
Find it.
It's like always losing it, but then kind of finding it again. It's like, all right,
Yeah.
well, I don't know what they're doing, but it's fun. I still like it. And yeah, they like,
Yeah.
it
And
just
I think this
had a
one's a-
good flow.
Yeah,
the
this
time.
one is a better example of flow than some of the other songs. And I think whether or not the song lands for me is whether or not that flow is good enough throughout the whole thing, even if I don't know exactly what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Well, track 5, 26 miles from Marathon, Brother Dave.
We start out with some cheesy, screamy shout vocals. Not a fan. But then at 1 minute, we get a really fun riff, which is another one of those ones that feels odd, but it's actually just 4/4. And it's just a nice riff. At 206, we get some tremolo picking in 7/4, which I think is these guys' favorite time signature, and I don't blame them.
Oh, dude, I got to call out too, since you're saying that part at 206 in my notes. Yeah, that is like awesome. But there's this really fast cymbal work that they're doing on the drums at that part, which really zazzed up the radness a little bit. So I like that part a lot.
I put
Yeah.
a lot of cymbal work there.
Oh, but yeah, with the dark sounding tremolo picking and the like real fast cymbals, yeah, that part slapped.
Yeah. I haven't called out many of the drumming parts on this one, but their drummer is really good. And they're
Yep.
super well rehearsed, just very tight playing as a group. And you have to be tight to play this kind of music because it is very noodly and precise, like metronomic. There's not much room for feel so much. Like you just have to
Yeah.
hit the notes right when the notes are. This song, though, by the end, I feel like it ends up feeling really repetitive. There's only a handful of riffs in here, and they kind of hang out on them. And even that one that I really liked at 1 minute, by the end of this song, I'm tired of it. They play it for a straight minute 12 seconds to bring us out of this song, and I'm ready for it to be done by the time we get to the end.
So either
Brother,
I was gonna say either they're doing a riff way too short for my taste or way too long for your taste is what's
exactly.
going on.
They can't please us all. Brother
Nope.
Paul, did they please you?
I like this one. They could have ended it at 3 minutes.
Which is something they've usually been pretty good about.
Yes.
Most of their songs are in the 3.5 minutes, and it's a good length. And this one kind of drags.
Yeah.
But Paul, if they would have stopped at 3 minutes, we wouldn't have got at 3:06 where they had this really bassy kick drum smack, and it's sort of like probably a bass slide or something, and they like hit the kick drum like 3 times. It's like I don't know. That part was pretty sweet.
They could have ended it at 3:10.
Yeah. Okay. Now I'm with you.
So one last thing. I love how he shouts "Go" at 33 seconds.
That's a classic move.
Gotta call it out when I hear it. So, Brother John, any last words on this one?
Not really. I think I have already just peppered in my comments when you
Do it.
guys were hitting on stuff that I couldn't say. But like what I said earlier, this is where I fully felt the Stockholm Syndrome with the vocals by the middle of this song. So I knew that I was in for more good stuff to come.
Well, talk to us about track number 6, Confession of Inadequacy, Brother John.
All right. Well, so after sort of another non-standard time signature intro, they settle into a pretty part with some clean singing around the 40-second mark. I liked that. And then at a minute 23, they return to that sort of wonky non-standard guitar riff from the intro. And I do like the sound of that riff. So it was nice to be getting some more of that. I thought it was pretty cool. I was like, I don't know what time signature this is in, but could try to figure it out. I figure I'll just wait for Dave to tell me on the pod. But then they brought it back. It's like, all right, nice, more of this. I do like this. And let's see, at about 2 minutes, they go into a musical bridge where the guitars were not doing as technical of stuff, but there was a lot of really fast drumming going on, lots of double kick, fast snare work. I really like that part. And they hit us with a long fade out to finish this one off. So, something for the fans. Brother Dave, can you explain, was this more 7/4 or what was going on with these guitars in the intro riff?
The intro riff I did not count. I just said, this is mathy noodling. This is a style I have trouble getting into, and it might be kind of the thing that's holding me back from truly enjoying this band. Like, just, I don't get it on a kind of fundamental level, like what the draw of mathy noodling is. But 40 seconds, we get those clean vocals. Those are in 5/4. I really like those. And then at 123, I think I accidentally counted this correctly on the first try, and it's 4 + 3 + 4 + 2, and that was neat.
Well, that was the same riff from the intro.
Was that the same riff?
Yeah, that's what they
maybe
came back to. And I was like, oh, nice, they're doing it again. 4, 3,
Oh, I
4,
wonder
2.
if they were doing like a different rhythm under it or something that made it feel like a different section of me. But I think that's what was going on there. And I did like the big open part at around 2 minutes. Another one of those big 4/4 sections, just open chords. And I had written, even this band couldn't find a riff to end this one. Fade out.
Just turn it down, turn it down.
Yeah. I like the more melodic section. That's a little cleaner at the 45-second mark. I don't mind the clean vocals on this one. They're, honed, vocal style number 3. Good enough that it doesn't annoy me. They do go into kind of Dirk Verburen territory at that 220 mark with the relentless double kick underneath the relatively quieter section. Overall, I like this one. I think it's a little more coherent and melodic than a lot of the previous other songs. Fade Out. Track 7, Scrape the Surface. Brother Dave.
Start off with a little 5/4, and then the rest of the song, if it's not coming back to that intro riff, it's largely just kind of syncopated 4/4. There's not a whole lot to this song, especially relative to the complexity that we've been seeing previously. Vocally, I like the clean singing that we're getting in here, but I think, and maybe this is something that was rubbing Brother Paul the wrong way with some of the cleans, is that I feel like the production on the clean vocals needed to be punched up because it's sounding particularly thin. And I think filling those out more could have really added to the overall vocal effect. This might have been even just a single take, maybe doubled, but like it's still very kind of not reverby, not wide at all.
One take
this
Willie.
song,
Yeah.
yeah. This song overall kind of doesn't do much for me. Brother John?
You know what? That's a little bit like my comment here. Overall, this song is less technical and showy than a lot of the other stuff on the album. It doesn't really stand out to me, but I don't dislike it. Just sort of is. But I did have a couple mainly comments about the vocals, I guess, that they have the sort of hoarse vocals, but not so shouty. So I thought those kind of like more gruff sounding vocals were pretty decent on this one. And this is in my notes where I wondered, like, how many vocalists do they have? There's so many different styles. You know, the one thing they didn't do, though, was I don't recall there being a whistling section. So they could have, you know, added like an 8th or 9th style if they would have thrown in some whistling. But then also at 224, the song stops for like a full second. I was like, it's over so abruptly, but then it starts again and they're like, not done yet. Fake out, baby. But yeah, overall, this one, didn't really hit me in a great way, but not a negative way either.
Yeah, this is one I had to go back and listen to, like specifically just this one to get something to write about it. And on this one, like the clean vocals are bad, right? Or at least they just don't fit.
I glossed over that, but I said, I don't know if I love those clean vocals in this one. I don't recall what they sounded like now, but I didn't really like them, I guess.
Will I tread broken glass?
They were the reason I wrote about the clean vocals here is because they stood out to me as more jarringly off than in previous sections.
Yeah, this one especially, I'm like, these are straight up bad. Like before, it's like maybe personal preference.
I'm pretty sure Dave said that he liked the clean vocals here, so you're gonna have to play back the tape.
Play the tape,
on that.
yeah.
Maybe I'm misremembering, but I thought Dave said he liked the clean vocals here.
I think I still liked them, but they were not of the same quality as the previous cleans.
Explain yourself, Dave.
Just move those goalposts, sir.
I think I've been consistent, and that's why I wrote a note on them.
And the other thing is that hard stop at 222 is weird, and then they just start a whole new song as so
classic soil work.
Was it totally different?
It's absolutely different.
Just a whole new riff. I guess I didn't really make much note about that.
They're like, okay, let's jam these together. We just stop in the middle. It's fine. Well, track number 8, thrash synergy. We get some good intro chugs. The vocals on this one, they're shouted and seemingly have no relation to the music. Like, so I think they're doing the,
Another
technical
classic
prog.
Soilwork
Yeah,
move.
and just like, "Well, fuck it, I'm just gonna shout." But we get an extended instrumental starting at 1:30, and that's good. But this song does not need to be 5 minutes and 20 seconds. And the outro, it gets so repetitive. And they fade it out because they don't know how to end the song. And this is what, like the third fade out now? It's like, just, you got so many riffs, learn how to end them. Just do it. Brother Dave.
Yeah, this one alternates between big chords and mathy noodling, and like it's technically well executed, but there's minimal flow between sections here. It's not quite as jarring as Tourniquet, but only just. This song overall just did not really do it for me. It didn't seem to introduce anything new, and it kind of leaned into the less good aspects of this album. And I feel like by this point, I can confidently say this album it's sunk into a second half slump.
Maybe. Let me say, for this one, I got to open up our segment, Pallymeters. Because
playing simultaneous rhythms, polymeters. It's math.
And honestly, we could have opened this segment for like pretty much any of the songs because they're all in wonky time signatures. It's math. It's math. But like at the beginning of this one, I was like, what are they doing here? And I think I figured it out. It's like 9/16 notes, 9/16th notes, followed by 6/16th notes. So it's like 15, but it's like 9 and then 6. Real wonky, but like in kind of a cool way. And it's like for the first 15-16 seconds of the song, they're doing this riff like that, and I thought it was pretty sweet. And after that, then they launched into like a fast, riffy, thrashy bit, which I also thought was pretty cool. But my comment later, this one should maybe be called Technical Synergy because they're doing all sorts of weird stuff that keeps throwing off the beat, but it's cool and engaging. But yeah, it maybe got a little bit long because they were like hanging out on this one riff for like probably a couple minutes. They're just cranking away at this thrashy punk style, but then they do mix it up at 4:45. They kind of break it down to halftime, which I thought was a nice dynamic touch. But then they like speed it back up again and keep doing it, and then they fade it out. So yeah, a little bit marred by overlength. But overall, I thought, they were doing some cool stuff in this song that I did like.
Well, let's see if the second half slump continues with track number 9, Aperture. Brother Dave.
Surprise acoustic song. Kind of came out of left field. It's got clean vocals. It's got nice movement in the chord progression. I actually like this song a lot. It's a nice song.
Will you be there? Will you be there?
And it reminds me of, let me see if I've got it pulled up here, a comment that was left on songmeanings.com. Not on this song, but on the song 26 Miles from Marathon, where Fat Bob 158 said, "Great new CD. I just bought it. I guess it came out today as well. Anyway, my fave song is Aperture. It's a nice change."
Thank you,
Is
Fat
that
Bob.
comment on a different song?
Yep.
Yep. And then,
People are so weird.
yeah. And then Darth Squirrel replied, said, Aperture is a beautiful song. I love Synergy as well. Many people don't like it, which is unfortunate. Like
Oh.
all the comments on the 26 miles from Marathon song were not about the song itself, which made me laugh.
That
Oh.
is pretty silly. But yeah, this
Yeah.
is kind of a surprise number. It's kind of like in Zoolander where he's working in the mine and then he pops out of the dark corner and he's all covered in like black coal dust or whatever. Like that he put on his blackface basically. He's like, surprise. This song is like that. And everyone's like, oh, what's going on? But you know, it's a nice little acoustic number. Clean vocals. You could pretty much get your lighter out and hold it up in a show setting, or you know, in the modern age, get your phone light out since nobody has lighters anymore. But yeah, it's kind of like a slow acoustic anthem jam. I like it.
Yes, I really like this one too. It's sparse and mellow, and it's just like a gentle conversation or questioning, and it is a bit of a vibe shift, but I'm glad they did it. I really like this one.
I feel like a lot of albums in the early aughts had the one kind of acoustic song, like
Yeah.
metal albums. Maybe that's still a thing that bands are doing. And I just don't notice because I'm not listening to as much new music. But back in the day, it was kind of almost a staple to have like the one slow kind of acoustic song. Or like
Yeah.
not necessarily slow, but just like soft or, you know, either fully acoustic or just like non-distorted, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, track number 10, Emancipation, Brother John.
All right, so this one I think was my least favorite on the album. Several of the parts of it sounded like, I don't know, a little too syncopated or too progressive for my liking. For example, like about 1 minute, there's sort of this straight drum beat, but there's like a weird prancing guitar riff they're doing that just doesn't line up with it, and it never seemed to sync up with the drum beat that
They
they're
couldn't
doing.
even find the downbeat.
Yeah, they couldn't find the downbeat, and they do that again at 2:18. So like that part, I just really disliked. I was like, it's just not vibing for me. And it has the very shouty vocals that I don't love. So, you know, this one, 2 for 2 misses. And my least favorite on the album, Brother Paul.
Yeah, well, I think I was less negative towards it, but I understand where you're coming from. I said good guitar work throughout. I used the word staccato prog wankery, which I think
I
The
think that's
weird
what I've been
prancing
calling
guitar riff.
mathy noodling.
yeah, it's not bad. They got some nice drum flourishes. The ending on this one is very abrupt. Brother Dave.
Yeah, this one didn't super work for me. It starts off and there is kind of a groove baked into the frantic math, and I appreciated that. There was kind of a quiet BT Bam-esque part at 24 seconds. I appreciated that. Then the rest of the song kind of loses me. I ended up feeling like the riffs were starting to feel formulaic, where it was like they chug the root a couple of times and then they do like an ascending thing. And then they chug a different root note and then they do an ascending thing from it. And it just kind of felt samey to me. And I wasn't big on it.
Well, that brings us to the end of the album, track number 11, Nihilism 2002. We get a very abrupt start, and the song is fine. But the last minute and a half is where this one really shines. I like the way this song ends. It goes out on a really kind of big solo. yeah, it's a fade out, but I think it works on this. And I
Fifth fade out on the album?
yes, a lot of fade outs, which
I'll
you
get it right
know,
one of these times.
I don't know. I think I like the ending to this song. I like the ending to this album. Brother John.
Yeah, I said this one's an actual bop. Hits hard and fast, stays relentless. A lot of good, cool drumming stuff happening throughout. It's not so technical and progressive, and as in it's easier to find the beat, though they are still doing some intricate guitar stuff, which, still sounded really good. And at 3:03, they go into this wailing guitar solo, which also pretty legit. So overall, I like this one quite a bit. Brother Dave?
Huh. I have written that this is an album track. I felt like there really wasn't much here that we hadn't heard before. The solo was decent, but I thought that fading out during the solo was a very weird choice and a really poor end to the album. I thought that this really did not work as an album closer and that it was a interesting choice in a bad way.
I also didn't even notice or have note of the fade out, so I'll have to listen back and check that out again. Just missed me completely.
This is an episode where if you play a drinking game, take a shot every time we use the word interesting to describe that.
You will die.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's good, sometimes not so good, though.
Yeah. Well, with that, let's kick it over to our resident rankings expert, Brother John.
All right, you Jesus freaks. Our final segment is Bop or Flop, where we decide, does the album slap or is it crap? We have honed our patented 6-tier ranking system, going from 6 all the way down to 1. We have, of course, the bops, a perfect 6. Unassailable, God has truly shined his divine light on this album. A 5, like to stand on that thing. A banger we could listen to again and again. A 4, or that's doable. A very solid album, worth checking out. And of course, there are the flops. A 3, it lacks zazz. A 2, sorry, it's not my cup of tea. And a 1 belongs in a garbage can. So this, I thought, was a hidden gem. I, had heard the name Extol back in the day and never listened to them, never saw them live at Cornerstone. Paul, you should have brought me along. Although I probably would have just made fun of you in those days like I did when you were going to see Demon Hunter and I thought that they sucked for some reason, which I don't even know why, because I don't think I'd heard Demon Hunter. Maybe it was just the name of the band I thought was cheesy. Anyways, that's getting off track. But this album, to me, it's a hidden gem, and I'm glad that you have uncovered it for me. It did take a listen or two to really appreciate what they were doing and kind of find enjoyment in the technicality of their playing, but once I did, I was really enjoying what I heard. And that was kind of, I think I mentioned this up at the top, but that was kind of my initial response to Between the Buried and Me when I first heard them. Is like, okay, it took me a couple listens to get it, but when I got it, I was like, oh yeah, this is awesome. So I think maybe that's just a thing where bands are throwing around a lot of weird time signatures. It's less accessible, but I do seem to tend to enjoy it. So a lot of cool instrumentation with these guys. Vocal stylings were a mixed bag. A lot of it didn't really land, but overall it wasn't super offensive to me. So I'd say it's a solid album, definitely worth checking out, especially if, a listener's into more technical stuff. For sure, check this out. It was even good enough that I dug into a little bit of Extol's other releases as well, which what I did listen to was good. I got to go back and listen to that first one that you were saying to get the more black metal stylings. So overall, I am excited to have discovered the band Extol. I'm going to say I would like to stand on this from time to time. I'm going to give it a 5.
Solid. I agree with a lot of the stuff you said. I think this is not a particularly accessible band. And that it's one that most people would need to spend a little time with to get it. I could see this band really being someone's jam. There's a certain brand of technical autism on display here. with songs, they feel like they need to be memorized more so than flowed with. And I could imagine that being really fulfilling when you get it, right? That like you've cracked the structure of these songs. Um, just a super rhythmically complex band. There's a lot going on here, which appeals to me, but it is light on melody and light on hooks, which ultimately makes it challenging for me to get into. Add some vocal decisions that I'm not super on board with on there, and what I think is a pretty noticeable second half slump here. And this album is one that I'm unlikely to return to. That said, I am intrigued by this band, and I will check out their later stuff, see if they kind of refine this, because it is very interesting, as we've said time and time again. This album, though, I think I'm going to put it a little higher than Tourniquet at a 3.75. It lacks the zazz I'm looking for. But definitely check out this band if you like the mathier side of the genre.
In preparing for this episode, I listened to basically every other Extol release except I think their EP all the way through. And I can confidently say that for me, Synergy is my least favorite release by them. It's a very transitional album in their journey. They start as a progressive black metal band, then they add more death metal influence, then there's this one, and then the one after this one, they lead more into the progressive kind of rock a la Riverside, Pain of Salvation, Porcupine Tree. Taken on its own merits, this one to me lacks zazz. There's a fair amount of technical prowess, but the album fails to captivate me. And for every element I do like, I think there's something I equally don't enjoy. And I'm a lot more negative on these vocals than you boys are. It's not a bad album per se, but there's something lacking here. However, I'm going to amend. I originally had given them a straight 3, which I don't think is quite fair because it lacks zazz, but there's a lot of good stuff here, and it makes me want to check out the rest of their stuff, which I did, which I enjoy. So I got to take that into effect. I'm going to give them a 3.5. It's worth checking out, and even if you bounce off this one, if you recognize the talent that they have, go check out some of their other stuff. You go to their earlier works, it's a little, darker, more brutal. If it's the later stuff, it's a little cleaner, more, rock. I'm a Solomon this and give it a 3.5.
Which is the lowest ranking of the three of us.
I'm Solomoning my own
Yeah.
my own ranking. It's not a 4, it's not a 3. So, well, brothers and sisters, that is all for this week. Stay tuned for the next episode where we discuss the Christian unblack metal band and Tester's 2005 album, The Forsaken. Until then, may the metal be with you.
And
And
also,
also
with
with
you.
you.